Guys ready to go to jail?
Let's go.
This room would be your first stop if you were arrested here at the Pottawatomie County Jail, known as the Squirrel Cage Jail today. We'd bring you in here, take away your shoelaces, belt buckle. Anything we find dangerous would be taken away and not given back, but you get to keep your matches and cigarettes, because that would be fine, right? We opened in 1885 and served the county up until 1969, so we were open for about 84 years as a jail, and then we've been a museum since the 70s. If you look in the case over here, you can see some mug shots, and those are from the 1930s. And then we had no electricity when we opened for the first 60 years, so we just have gas lights. So the light fixture there will show you the two that were out. After that, electricity does come in, but only in the main areas. And then behind me is solitary confinement. So if you want to stay kind of in that general area, because there's nowhere for me to go. It is right where I'm standing.
Oh man.
So I'm about 5'3", if that says anything. It's just this little spot, couple feet deep, couple feet across. It's meant for 30 minutes, couple of hours till you calm down. But the longest that we're aware of is 10 days, right here.
What?
So you get bread and water twice a day, coffee can or bucket in here with you at your feet, making it even smaller. So and you can feel a temperature difference as soon as you step into this spot as well.
That's great. That's the smallest cell.
Feel free to jump in if you'd like.
Honestly, this is tiny.
Nice
Ooh.
and pretty, right?
Oh my gosh!
Jesus.
That's literally it?
I can't even stand up all the way.
Ooh.
Yeah, I literally can't even.
Could you imagine, half an hour in there?
No, especially with this.
Oh,
Clothes like this. Jesus.
that's terrible.
Nope.
Right now you've got the hallway like behind you when you're lighting it up, but it's very dark, and looking down that hallway,
I bet.
Your eyes almost start blurring with it. It's so dark back there.
Wow.
Feels kind of nice though.
So this is the kitchen. This is where the jailer's wife would prepare all of the food. We have a staff of 2 here, the jailer and his wife. The jailer needs to be married or have a sister because we do need a cook. She's cooking anywhere from 60 to 90 meals per mealtime on this stove behind me. By 1920, she finally gets a sink and a summer kitchen outside the far door. Before that, for the first 20 years, this was also the only source of heat here. Buckets of coal would be heated up and distributed throughout the building. After that, steam heat or radiators came in, and then even today, it's hot when it's hot outside and it's cold when it's cold outside. It's 3 layers of brick on these walls, on the exterior, and then in the cells, you've got the metal as well.
Wow.
This is a model of what we're gonna go into. We're standing basically right here. All 3 levels would rotate as one piece. Originally, it would have done that continuously with the use of a water wheel in the basement. Now that burned out within 5 to 20 years, depending on who you speak to is the exact date. So it goes to manual movement after that. There's a hand crank at the front of each level. The jailer would crank it around, line up this little cell here. The only way in and out is through that swinging door. That's how it works up until 1960, at which point the fire marshal says this is kind of dangerous. It's getting stuck. Arms and legs are getting broken. If it's stuck, people in these upper back cells could be without food and water. And if there's an emergency, it takes 8 to 12 minutes for full rotation. That's just the rotation. So he said we had to stop rotating. Where it sits today is where it stopped in 1960. These doors were removed, as well as the hand cranks and all mechanisms in the column here. When we stopped rotating, they cut openings all the way around the first floor and on the second and third where we have the platforms. So we go from that nice 60 capacity to a little less than half. We also have different dangers at that point because you can't lock the inmates in their cells, just the door here basically. Inmates run the floor for the last 9 years, so the jailer refuses to go back without an armed guard. You also have dangers for the inmates, because if I'm in here for assault and battery, you're in here for jaywalking, what's to take care of you at night? So, a little bit different.
How many are there like that?
There's only 3 remaining, but there were about 18 built across the country in the 1880s. It was built basically over a period of 7 years, just very quickly. We're the largest one ever constructed at 3 layers, and the other 2 still open, are still standing, are museums as well. It's a 1-story and a 2-story respectively.
Wow.
So we're very lucky that we have all 3 levels remaining if it's gonna go anyway. Guys ready to go to jail?
Let's go.
Some nice heavy doors.
Beautiful.
This is where the hand crank was, that swinging door I mentioned. And this is the 1 entry to this level that would have been here originally.
Oh, so this is the cage.
Yes.
The rotating, I
If
should
you
say.
look down here, you can see the gears.
Yeah.
So it's that inside portion that would rotate, and these bars would stay solid.
Wow.
Every other cell is going to be dark to give you an idea of what it looked like before 1960. Before that, we could not put light bulbs in the cells, so your main light would just be out here. We also have the fake bars going across that one to give you an idea of what it looked like before the openings are cut. And again, you can see the gears here, and then it's that inside drum is what rotates. There's 2 bunks per cell. They're very small cells, and at the very back of it is your toilet. So it's basically like a little shelf back there you can see. It's gonna have a hole filled with water. Once it's filled with other materials, it's gonna flush out. The ventilation is small holes on the curved portion above that shelf.
Wow.
So there's 30 of those. It's gonna be a little rough back here. They can also smoke back here. We had one inmate, Harry Colin, smoking about 150 to 200 hand-rolled cigarettes a day. And unfortunately, he did pass away of a heart attack here on this first level. So we have some more information about him in that cell. And you guys can enter these cells tonight as well. Just either undo the rope or the handcuffs. We just keep people out in the daytime now to make it a little bit safer for everyone. Some things you just can't clean, so we want to give time instead. But on the ceiling in here, as well as where we came in and many other places, you'll see black writing. That's done by rolling up a piece of paper, lighting it on fire, and writing with the soot and the smoke.
Wow.
So that is from our inmates.
That's crazy.
We're very lucky. This building wasn't really empty, so it was fairly well preserved by the Historical Society.
Yeah.
In this case, there are locks and restraints that were used here. But as you look up over here, that's what it looked like all the way across, just those bars completely covering the cells. There used to be catwalks that went around. So if you look kind of right here where it's roughly cut into the right of the hand, they went out to about there, had a small lip. They were meant just for the jailer's use. Inmates were not supposed to go up on them. So of course, an inmate in 1942, a Joseph Latac, did go up onto the 3rd floor catwalk. He stood up and he fell, breaking his neck in this area. So that's the 2nd death that we're aware of here.
Wow.
This table here was built back here most likely just because those nice small doors we came through, but all the writing in it would have been carved in with the use of a spoon by the inmates.
Wow.
We have a bunch of carvings on the walls in this area too, and actually I think one to the right of your right foot on the floor from like 30s or 40s.
Wow.
I'm here a lot. If you want, you can step into that cell, get a feeling. You guys will also be going in them tonight, so.
Want to step in?
Sure. I recommend stopping a little bit.
Oh. Oh.
Give a little stomp.
Oh, stop. Oh.
Imagine like, let's say half capacity, 30 angry men stomping back here, pounding on the walls, just talking, like I'm not talking very loud and my voice echoes in here.
Yeah.
It would be awful for everyone here. And the jailer and his family live above that floor.
Oh.
Yeah.
Seems chaotic.
Yeah, I think it could be a little crazy here. We know one of the jailers and his wives that were here as relief jailers, so to speak, gave out popcorn and Kool-Aid in the evenings in order to hopefully have a quiet night for everybody.
Wow.
It's one of my favorite stories, like these big tough guys getting popcorn and Kool-Aid. And a few months ago, we heard what sounded like a door opening. We actually think it might be our flip book upstairs. Then a female voice said hello, and it was actually, I don't know, so distinct we were concerned somebody had come into the building, actually.
Wow.
That night we also had a light grid pointing into the shower, and it did look like it was changing colors a little bit. People got some decent EVPs back here as well, and some growling female voices have been prevalent in the last 4 to 5 months. My time's a little off these days.
Yeah.
And then male voices, of course, have also been heard back here as well. And I know females in that same time period have been feeling hands on their thighs and on their leg a little bit more than usual.
What would the female voices be?
So we did house women here. Only men were housed in this rotary section, but we'll see a juvenile detention as well as women's housing as we go up through the building.
Okay.
So we housed everybody here at the county jail.
Interesting.
Right behind me, this is the shower. You're gonna shower once a week in your clothes. It's cold water each and every week. Whatever you're wearing at the time of arrest is what you're wearing during your stay because we don't hand out uniforms. And the only way to wash it is by wearing your clothes when you shower. So you could be here, a couple nights, 6 months, 8 months to a year, wearing the same thing, washing it once a week. Now the shower came in the 30s. You'll also see a washer in here. That would have come in 1932, but it was just outside in kind of a lean-to wooden structure that the jailers used to take care of things.
Wow.
So this area here is kind of our salute to law enforcement here in Potawatomi County. A lot of different pieces of equipment they've used. This case is going to be some of the older ones. One farthest from me will be a little bit more contemporary. On top of both the tall cases, we have light bars that were used on squad cars. We also have an older uniform, kind of 50s, 60s era. And then on that board there, those are going to be some of the sheriffs and jailers that worked here. There's 5 jailers up there right now, and we're actually actively getting more pictures and information. So we closed just over 50 years ago, so they're actually right now going through a lot of our records at the sheriff's department. So they had to go through what was important for them right now and digitize all of that. So now they're getting to what we find the important stuff. So if you look at this shelf here, you can see on that far side a whole bunch of people outside that fence. It was during the 1932 farmers' riots. We had about 160 to 165 men in the cage. That's over capacity by about 100, 105. So 5 to 6 are eating and sleeping in shifts. We have a staff of 2 here. The sheriff went ahead and swore in a bunch of local deputies, about 100 special deputies at that time. And some were here, some were taking care of some stuff in the county. They were doing riot gun training in the office where we started. Unfortunately, a weapon misfired, injuring 1 officer and fatally injuring Deputy Claude Dale. So we have a photo of him in the case there. He's the one with the hat in the far back corner, and then a few memorial pieces for him as well. That is the only officer that was lost within our walls. Just a horrible accident. But we just passed the flip book there. We actually think that's the sound we heard a few months ago, that squeak, because it does squeak when you move it. And we've heard that a couple times now. I don't usually investigate, but that was during kind of like an informal event, so I usually hang out with the groups because they haven't investigated before. But in there you can see jailer's records from 1933. People were in here for passing on the wrong side of the road, speeding, fishing without a license, adultery. You can be in here for that too. A lot of things that we don't think of today. Intoxication, very huge. So you're out in a nice rotary structure.
Oh.
It's gonna be really fun here. We did have people in here for harsher crimes as well, but the majority of stuff is you did something stupid. You're hanging out in county jail for a few nights. But over here we do have a noose and a portion of a noose. These were used in one of the last hangings from Potawatomi County. This was for Charles Brown and Charles Kelly. They decided to get some guns and go on a 3-day, 3-state shooting spree. They start in Minneapolis, they work their way to Omaha, and they ended up here in Council Bluffs. It was pretty obvious they were in the area, so officers did set up roadblocks. They'd attacked at least 7 people. One bartender in Minneapolis was shot multiple times. He was able to make it to a hospital where he was in intensive care. I don't know what happened after that. I believe at least 4 of the men or people they attacked did die from their injuries. They carjacked at least 2 men here. One, I believe an IRS agent, did not make it. Another, Mr. Vinsel, did survive from those injuries. So like I said, pretty obvious. They're in the area, the roadblocks were set up. These 2 and a young lady get on a bus to try and get out of town, and they're stopped at one of those roadblocks. Officers were able to peacefully board the bus and remove them. Brown and Kelly say it was only because that woman was with them. Otherwise, it would have been a very different arrest story. All 3 were brought here. She was housed here as a witness and later released. Brown was held here for parts of his trial, found guilty, sentenced to execution at Fort Madison, which is about 5 hours east of us, other side of the state. That was carried out in 1962. Now, Kelly was concerned that there would be bias, so he asked or petitioned the court basically to be tried in a different county. So he's tried in Mills County right next door, and he too was found guilty, sentenced to execution in 62. So this is the portion and noose that were used in their executions. 29, 30 years old, he's about 19, 20 years old.
Wow.
So, yeah, their story is creepy, to say the least.
Yeah.
Just definitely a spree killing style there. And from what I've read, it seems he was likely the more dominant one as well. I believe he left a wife and maybe some kids, basically just ran out on them. It's a little strange because I think it was, I don't know, almost a break. I'm still researching them, but on this level, we also know of the 4th death on record in our building. It was Thomas Rifle. He had been arrested after continual harassment of a young man in town and bootlegging charges. He's brought here. Other inmates report that he was acting kind of morose. He ends up taking a laundry line or sheets around his neck and around the outside bars and is slowly suffocated throughout the night. So, probably the most brutal one, in my opinion, here.
What do you mean slowly suffocated?
As it rotated.
How fast did it rotate?
It took about 8 to 12 minutes for a full rotation.
Oh,
so after he tied on, he would basically be stuck as the bars or center moved.
How long would that have taken?
I'm not sure. Those details weren't in the newspaper report. So it just described what he looked after, and those are details that will never leave me.
What were they?
Basically, so he had the death grimace. So Most of the time when bodies go slack, they'll have their jaw go off, but that his face was pretty puffy as well as his tongue, and you wouldn't see that in the papers today. So I didn't expect it when I was reading that one, because that's one of the earlier ones here.
Wow.
Then on these two walls is all about Jake Bird. He was here in about 1928 after the attempted murder of a husband and wife in the Carter Lake area, so it's kind of that general direction from us. He would have been housed here, probably a couple other jails, in order to have a live man to go to trial. He was found guilty and sentenced to 30 years at Fort Madison, again about 5 hours east of us. He spent some time there. He was sentenced to 30, definitely wasn't that long. He got out early due to good behavior, and he was able to move across the country as a railroad worker and moved across the country without notice. He's finally picked up in 1947 in Washington State for the murder of a mother and daughter. He's easily connected to this crime because brain matter is still on his person at the time of arrest. Taken to court, found guilty, sentenced to execution. At that point, he admits to 44 additional axe murders.
Axe murder?
Yes, so he used either an axe or a hatchet, usually females, and they were usually left in the nude. He connects himself to 46. Courts are able to connect him to about 10 or 11. During this time period, it's not easy to connect across the country, so he's likely the suspect in numerous others. If that's not enough, there's the Jake Bird hex. He tells everyone involved with the case that they will die before his execution. 6 die in that coming time. So 5 heart attacks and 1 case of bronchitis. We have the names and how they died over there, as well as his hex. Then we have some articles on the wall during that time, and then he's finally hung in 1949 at Washington State. This is a copy of the death certificate, and it took about 14 minutes for him to hang. Which, if you know anything about that, is much longer than it's supposed to be. And before I let you guys look, we've also had different reports up here. Some people have heard what sounds like coins rolling across the floor if they lay on the floor at night. I had a team of 2, one on this side, one kind of near the flip book. They had a recorder in the middle. They were able to catch, it's the air again, they were able to catch a moan on the recorder. Only one of them heard it as well.
So is there a specific cell that any of these people were in?
Unfortunately, we don't really have
You don't
records of
know?
which cells they were in. It's probably more of an honor system than anything else. There are some leftover, kind of looks like numbers, but we don't know what years that would have been done.
Yeah.
Since we were open for 84 years and it was just one jailer taking care of things, it could really change how things are going.
Is there a specific spirit that people think is in here?
So people think there's about 7 to 9 different entities with us. A couple of inmates, probably a jailer or 2. We believe Bill Foster. And then a female, we think a jailer's wife, but we don't think the 2 that are here were connected in life. A couple of kids, likely a boy and a girl, and then some ghost cats. So we've had meowing on EVPs, so
Wow.
my favorite thing personally.
Yeah, that sounds awesome. Where are they at?
Yeah, I haven't found them, which makes me crazy because I'm a cat lady, but people kind of feel it around their legs sometimes, or sitting in certain chairs almost feels like you just get a cold spot on your lap, which is a little weird. And then we have had people see some lights going across here. Kind of looked like, or described to me like a jailer going across with a flashlight, kind of. I'm tall for my family, so I just don't understand what's going on here. I'm tall for my family, so I just don't understand what's going on here. This area is Juvenile Detention.
Oh no.
This is for your 3 to 13-year-olds.
3?
We're pre-child services, so it's possible kids could be housed here if parents were arrested and there's no other arrangements made. They're going to try and get them to other places, of course. They could also be housed in here as a runaway if they need to be picked up by their parents. And then underage drinking, fighting, things like that as well. In the back left-hand corner, there's another shower, likely hot and cold water the way the pipes are set up. And then in each cell, you can see little doors on the wall. There's one to the right of the bench there. Originally, those would have opened. You could place coals inside, and that would heat this area. People have reported having their hair played with in here, poked, prodded, hats being pulled off. A little girl in this area around storms, usually. We've heard, I think, a men's voice in here, at least we were talking on one of the obulists. I'm not very good at pronouncing that, so I apologize. In here, we're pretty sure it was Bill Foster a few months ago, just the way the conversation was going. And then many people get a lot of voices in here, so it kind of overlaps in the building as well. And then when I was here, they had a flashlight in the shower, and they were able to ask to turn it on and off, and that was working pretty well. And somebody also got a pebble thrown at them in there as well. And then one of the partial body apparition photos was taken from about where you are, looking across into that area. So if we want to head there next. So the important thing about this room tonight, that's the one bathroom.
Oh, good.
We're directly above the kitchen, across from the office here. I've had, like I said, footsteps going up those front stairs, and then one of my tour guides, she was sitting in the office, which is directly below Juvenile Detention. She was waiting for a tour group to come in, so she's the only one in the building, and you can see the front door, you know when you're alone here. And she heard footsteps above her. She said they're kind of like heavy booted footsteps, was how she explained it. And that's how many people explain the footsteps here, that they're not like that light kind of tapping really. But in here, this originally looked like Juvenile Detention. It's actually the same size. There would have been a couple bunks here, a couple here. That wall's been changed, and the ceiling above the cabinet, there's been a change made there as well. This would have housed women when it looked like Juvenile Detention. Now, it's very likely this was remodeled in the last kind of years of use here, and Bill Foster would have stayed in this area. So it's a little bit nicer than when inmates would have been housed in here. These are not original pieces, but it wouldn't be weird to see in here. In the bathroom had also been made nicer. We can lock people out instead, and there's a phone line that was brought to this area. Now, there isn't too much activity picked up in here, but it's also right next to the bathroom with the thinnest wall in the world, so I assume that's probably some of the reason. But there's a portrait on the wall there. A group of 4 young men called her ugly, creepy, something along those lines, and somebody was scratched shortly after. We don't get too many violent responses, but if you come into my living room and made fun of me, I'm gonna have a similar response. But they do say dirty words quite often.
Perfect.
Bunch of grumpy guys here. We're run by the Historical Society, who started in 1907, which means they've been collecting for over a century. But this is the infirmary. If you have a broken arm or a broken leg from sticking your arm out as it rotates, you're gonna be brought up here. They would do that on purpose because it was easier to escape on the way to the hospital. So instead, you come up to this room and a doctor is on call and will come take care of you when he's available. You could also be brought up if you're sick, of course, as well. Medical equipment in here would not have been in here, but it's been donated to us. We think it should be seen. Back corner is a dental chair and drill. This is eye equipment. And then behind you guys, there is the full medicine cabinet as well. And the sink, toilet, and shower were added in the 1930s. You can really tell the way the shower's put together.
Oh, it's tiny.
Yeah, like it's short for me.
Yeah.
That's scary. Most people have feelings in here, a few EVPs, and I think a few things on the SLS camera. But overall, more feelings. And I will say medical people do tend to pick up a little bit more in this room. Then I was giving a tour a couple years ago, standing where you are, and a piece of fruit came out and hit my leg, either from the table, but I think it's from the food pass-through, which is behind that door. I was focused on giving the tour, and it hit me. I just thought, because I'm a klutz, that I hit the table. But the group I was giving the tour to got really big eyes and said, no, you did not. So, one of those fun things, you know?
I like that.
Yeah. So we have had
Freaky
things move around for here. Flashlights turn on and off, flashlights roll. Somebody had a flashlight, I don't know, 2 months ago that went off the piano bench upstairs. That I'll show you where that is. We're still looking for a screwdriver.
Wow.
Yeah, we'd really like to find it. It's a nice screwdriver. So things like that do happen. They kind of are mischievous, you might say, more than anything else. We can work our way up to the next level.
Okay.
And we have heard the reverberation of that bell. And I've also worked on this level, working on new displays on my own, and heard whistling on this level.
Whistling?
Yeah, it was strange because it was so distinct. I did stop what I was doing just to check, but I was alone in the building. It's the off season. I was just redoing a display, and it was just kind of like, okay, I am alone. Is this good or bad? And then with an investigator, we were doing an event, so it must have been 2 or 3 in the morning. We saw like a little light go down the wall down there. If we didn't know better, we would have thought like a lightning bug had gotten in, because it had that similar look, but it did it twice and there were no bugs, just that little kind of light. That's the window, so it's not, it doesn't work.
Yeah, no.
No.
We haven't seen it since. We keep trying, but.
What did the whistle sound like? What was the...
Just kind of sound like somebody whistling. I don't have much better than that. I was actually on the phone and stopped like mid-conversation to make sure they didn't learn how to whistle while talking to me. And of course not, but like it was that distinct that I just completely stopped to check. But
kind of like sustained, or like a
it was short.
Or just like that? Multiple notes?
I would say multiple notes. It's been about 2 years, so I'm a little rusty. But it wasn't like the wind, like kind of that. I grew up in Wyoming. I know what a wind whistle sounds like, so it was definitely, I don't know, it sounded like somebody whistling more. We have made it to the final floor. We fit a lot into this building.
Yeah.
But this level is where the jailer and his family would live. I mentioned all the smells from the toilets get up here. This is the maintenance shaft or the ventilation shaft. So if you look down, you can see some lights, and those are the holes from the toilets venting up into here. Originally, you could open up a trap door in the top with that rope, and that would move some of the air. By 1932, they had inmates dig a tunnel underneath the jail again to assist with that airflow. If you guys split up tonight, make sure this door is closed because you'll be able to hear people below you. Same if that door stays open as well. We've actually had that door open on its own a couple of times. We were fortunate that we have a security camera there this last time, and we were able to see it open. We had two people just kind of standing there, chatting, investigating, just kind of, you know, 2 in the morning. When you're getting a little tired, chat, and you just see the door pop open and their faces just, that could be the best part of the video, really. Because they say it opened about 6 inches. Unfortunately, our angle makes it look like it only opened a couple. We've tried to recreate it. We know if you don't close it quite right, it will pop open. But you can see in the video it had been closed for a while before, instead of just like you walk by and pop it. Because like if you walk by that one just right, if it's not closed properly, it will pop. So, I don't know, that one was just different, I guess. This is a large bathroom, of course. Originally, this would have been a large bedroom. When plumbing comes into the building, they finally get a bathroom on the floor they're living. You'll notice the majority of the toilets are on little risers. That's because there was no space left in between the floors for the plumbing needs when we were built in 1885, because it wasn't needed. The whole building is off about an inch or 2. That's partially why the cage started getting stuck with rotation.
Really?
Because the gears need to be perfect, and they're, I don't know exactly, but you can feel all the rooms are off up here. So many people believe this level to be the most haunted, although I did just mention it does, you know, you really feel it's off balance. So I take it with a grain of salt. Not to say we haven't had things happen up here. I've heard the doors sound like it's opening. I've heard banging on the roof up here. One of my tour guides, she doesn't spook easily, she heard whispering when she came to open this level. Still opened the level, very proud. We've heard that music box on top of there play multiple times. It's not electric, it's one that you have to crank. So it feels less likely that it's just gonna short out and start playing. Had a group of people, they were sitting down and they heard the case kind of shaking. Sometimes that happens if you walk heavily in front of it, but you do usually have to be walking to get that sound. Had female voices up here, a male voice that was explained almost as a baseball announcer kind of style, and children's laughter up here as well. And this is the bench where they had a flashlight, I believe, get tossed off of it, and people have been getting pretty good reactions with asking the yes or no questions throughout the building, but I can specifically say up here, first floor on the picnic table and in the shower, I was there and can say I did see those occur. So, which is weird. Like, I know it happens here, but it's like, that's happening. Okay. This is the living room though. They could hang out up here. Kids could have sleepovers. We know Bill Foster had card parties and entertained his friends up here. So pretty normal for that time, you could say. This room set up as the main bedroom. This level could be set up differently depending on the size of the family, also the year, depending if, you know, the bathroom's up here yet or not. But we kind of have it his and hers. So this is a cane, what once was an umbrella, and a clock. These were all presented to Sheriff Groeneweg at 3 different times in recognition of the work he did as a sheriff in the area. He actually built a cabinet in the other room and a cabinet in the kitchen. In here we have another family portrait of a jailer, his child and wife as well on the sewing table. And then behind here we do have the hole in the wall. So just like that furnace room across, there's another room back here. It's gonna be the same size as the front 2 rooms, likely shut off when heat was put into the building. The door would have been where the wardrobe is, but even on summer days, especially tonight, you can feel a nice breeze coming from there. You can't really see in there. This is the only entrance. If you lose anything in there, I cannot retrieve it. If you'd like to see pictures, we do have, I think it's called Secret or Hidden Room on our Facebook page. It's very dusty. It's kind of a letdown, really. We wanted something in there, you know, like nice and creepy, but it's a room space that we kind of want, basically. What's weird about this room is the EMF readings. We have a light and a light switch in here. That's it. There's no plugins in this room. But people get very high spikes, usually over the bed, occasionally in front of the wardrobe, but it usually kind of centers in that area. Before there was a table in here, and we also had similar interactions maybe. I've had teams crawl completely across the floor, go across the window just on the off chance that like all the way out across the alley there's the electric line, but it won't go off really across there, not under the bed. It's pretty localized there.
Wow.
And it spikes up to like 6 or the red depending on which piece of equipment you're using.
Wow.
So, it's weird. We're curious about it. We haven't figured it out. It's kind of fun. That's basically everything I have for you guys, unless you have questions. I can also show you a small off room that you guys can go in tonight as well.
What do you think is the creepiest part of the building?
It changes sometimes, if that makes sense. Tonight, when I came in the second floor, felt just extra creepy. And then I used to not want to go into the infirmary. We had a different mannequin in there that just, I don't know, I would not go in there for a little while, other than like tours and turning on the light. It's fine now, most of the time for me. And then the shower in Juvenile Detention, I don't like going into. I'm not really afraid here. I do get uneasy sometimes, but I do have to come in here regularly to do my job, so I try not to let my mind freak me out too much. I know a lot of people don't like the shower in juvie, so that one's not just me. And people get uneasy in the infirmary as well, so.
Interesting. Well, I think we're good.
Yeah. All right.
Honestly,
awesome.
that was perfect.
Pretty eerie in here.
It's very eerie in here. It's just very dead.
And it's cold outside, which doesn't help. It's hard to imagine too, all of the, when you really think about the screaming and the stomping, and it's just a big open room of all the people, especially during like a riot containment thing. Just looking into these cells too, that haven't been opened in however many years.
Oh my god.
Look at that writing up there. It's almost like you can kind of feel the presence of these people. It's just like the cells are empty, but I feel like the energy is still there, you know?
Oh, a very, very negative kind of oppressed.
And this whole the story of Jake Bird is so intriguing with his hex.
So creepy.
Who knows if it was a real thing, this energy killed people, if that was here at one point from this conviction. Almost concerning to touch that type of energy.
Oh yeah.
And then to have in this room too, not only kind of objects that were used in crimes, but objects that were used to serve justice in a way, if you believe in that, to literally murder people. It's like having the knife from a serial killer or his axe that he used to chop people. All the stuff in here, the pieces, I feel like they all add to the energy. It almost feels different in here too. This whole area I didn't really give that good of a look at, but
Well, I didn't really either. Oh, this is the little kids.
oh, is this the shower she was talking
Yes.
about? I
Yeah.
didn't see this back here. This is creepy.
Oh, this is really creepy.
Oh, this feels weird. It's like cold back here. I definitely want to spend my time alone in here. Let's go look up top one more time. For some reason, that's so creepy to see the darkness.
That's like really. Ooh. You could imagine somebody laying back there.
Oh, Jesus.
Oh God, what is that? That is creepy. Shine your light. Ew.
Jesus.
Oh,
Didn't
man.
expect that.
I didn't. Oh, I don't like that.
Infirmary, definitely focus point. Got a weird vibe in there. This whole area too, it's really hot in here.
What was it?
It's really weird.
Did you hear something?
Wait. Hello?
Is a cat up here?
Anybody up here? I came around that corner, I kind of went like this. It was really trippy actually. And I was walking and I kind of blinked like that. And literally, I felt like I saw like a black, almost a shadow figure when I blinked, just standing there, which is like a tall, just kind of looking at us, which is like I'm trying to do it again. I don't know what I would have seen. So it's kind of creepy. Let's go over here.
That's very creepy.
This is the bedroom too.
It's actually a nice little bedroom.
Did I just see somebody in here? It's so quiet. So, for tonight's itinerary, we're here at the Squirrel Cage Jail. If you guys can't tell already, it's me, Mama Spooks, my mom Mary, Jeff, Papa Spooks, and the three of us are going to spend a significant amount of time in here trying to contact who or what may still be in the jail. I've got this pair of handcuffs, kids' handcuffs, made of plastic, that I'm gonna have them put on me when I'm in the Juvenile Detention unit, and I'm gonna sit there alone for a while and send them somewhere else in the building. Probably, I'd say to the axe murder area, but I'm excited. It feels really active in here.
It does. There's crazy energy.
And there's something to be said about silence too, when a place is too quiet. But
It's very quiet.
just listen. You can literally hear the floor squeak.
Yes, and especially like downtown Council Bluffs. It's not, like, you really can't hear much.
Well, I say let's grab the equipment.
All right.
Time to get spooky, baby.
Hello.